Worldwide Sports Radio Network.
I don't want to lose. I want to win. I need professional help.
Sports Betting Weekly.
Sports Betting Weekly, sponsored by EasySportsData.com. The books use data, shouldn't you too? And this is Easy Sports Data, like the preschoolers use. EasySportsData.com.
I win here and I win there. Now what?
Sports Betting Weekly.
I want to win.
Here we go. Money talk.
Here comes the money.
You should also check out SportsBettingLessons.com. You'll learn some old tricks because sometimes how you bet is more important than who you bet. SportsBettingLessons.com.
Let's just do it. Let's meet this thing head on. And you were in it to win it. Talk about an education.
Sports Betting Weekly.
Wow, winning.
Sports Betting Weekly.
Sit back and enjoy the show.
Winner, winner, chicken dinner.
Welcome to Sports Betting Weekly. I am second half Chaz. I'm going to invite my guest in early, mostly from the lack of confidence that we can hear each other because we had issues last week. So we've got John from GMF Sports Consultant and Black Hawk West from 151 Sports Investing. And let's see here. How we doing? John.
Good, I'm good. Can you hear me?
Yes. And Wes.
Perfect.
I can see Wes. I can hear Wes.
Yeah, I'm great. All
right, so
unmute myself.
Yeah, for the first time since we've been on the Worldwide Sports Radio Network, we're not having football this weekend, and it's kind of weird. I have plans for Saturday and Sunday this weekend that have nothing to do with needing a television.
I'm not going to lie. I'm kind of going through withdrawals already. You know, they put football every week on your plate, you know, for 17 weeks. I mean, not only that, this season we had football Monday, Tuesday, I think every day of the week, you know, throughout the year. So
we did. We had a stretch of, I think, 27 days in a row where there was a football game on. And don't get me wrong, Tuesday, Wednesday, 3:30, 4:30, 5:30 Pacific time. If it's on, I'm watching it. I may not sit in front of it. I may not have action on it, actually. I may be cooking dinner. I may have the fire going if it's cold out. You know, people don't realize it can get in the 50s out here.
Yeah, it's cold out here in Vegas today. Speaking of that, there was some snow in my backyard.
I did see that. That my temperature quote, though, was kind of focused more on Black Hawk West.
Oh, yeah. He's used to it already, you know.
All right, so like always, what makes this show special is if you tune in, you win money today, not later today. I mean, literally, we have cash tickets before we went off the air, so that's what we're going to do. We're going to start, and how I like to do it, I'm going to start with Wes. Black Hawk West, do you have any action right now, things that you have already looked at, things that you put the time and handicapped in?
I do, and when you first called on us, my head was down because I was actually laying action. Right now, I'm looking at the Florida Panthers and Columbus Blue Jackets game. I like the Panthers to win the second period, the money line second period. The smart move is to take the plus 1.5 right now, even though it's minus 130. But I actually have a half a unit on the money line as well. There's value on the Panthers and the money line plus 225. Columbus, for the most part, they have no problem giving up the lead when they score first. They've done it in a few of their losses this year. The other one that I'm looking at, I'm not in it yet, but I'm looking at the Calgary and Montreal game. Typically, out of the 4 wins that Montreal has had this year, they go up 2 goals and they just expand on that lead. So, and Calgary kind of folds when the team goes up first. So it's 2.5. That's a lot to lay, but Calgary is a team that needs momentum. They just don't have it right now. I'm not there yet, but I'm all over this Florida Panthers game.
All right, so we know it's 2 games we'll talk about with you. What about John? Anything, John, that you looked at already today?
Yeah, I did. So I'm actually going to segue into NBA. This is a game that we all have action on here at GMF. So it's going to be the Houston Rockets. The Houston Rockets were anywhere from 4 to 5 point favorites, -5, depending on what time you got in the line. They're actually technically down right now They're down 14 at the moment. Just started the second quarter. I haven't checked it within the last couple of minutes, but last time I checked, they were actually getting 5.5 with, I think, plus money. So that would be something that I absolutely probably jump on all over. Yeah,
I'm not sure if you could say asses on the radio, but they're getting them handed to them. They're down 32-17 right now, based on the score I'm looking at.
Yeah. The first quarter was terrible. We're second way about 2 minutes into the second quarter, and Houston's looking a little bit better. So if you follow NBA, everybody knows these swings in NBA are absolutely brutal. I tell everybody, if you bet NBA, don't bother watching it till at least the fourth quarter. So, but this is something I'm going to keep an eye on. I mean, I'm already on them for the game. So, me getting plus, 5.5 plus money, I'm probably going to throw a little bit on that too.
Yeah, the only thing I looked at, and again, I'm starting to pay attention during the week. So what I do is I work for a living, but I work at a desk where I have two monitors, so I can have my monitor where I'm working, and then I can have my monitor where I'm looking. And I just kind of look for opportunities. I've had a pretty good week. I think I cashed 3 of the 4 days. I had one more money than I lost for the week. But what it was finding those opportunities and hopping on them when I see them. And, again, when you see a team that's given 5.5 or whatever that was, and they're down by 14, it don't take. Now, I'm not just going to do it. I'm not going to just hop on it. I'm going to check and see if there's any news. I mean, I've got a few minutes. As you know, especially in basketball, though the live action is always moving, basketball games have these natural breaks where they just stop. And so you got plenty of time to do some research. I want to make sure I'm not missing anything. I can't tell you how many times I hopped on a football game in live action based on my previous handicapping and knowing the score, not realizing that the quarterback is in the tent. And when your quarterback's in the tent, you really don't want to be piling up money on that team. I did pretty well with I had a hockey game too. I saw that the Chicago was playing this week. Now, they're doing a little different with that hockey, Wes, right? They're doing a kind of a mini bubble thing, aren't they?
Well, what they're doing is you can't call it a home and home because they're kind of doing a double header where they play 2 games in the same state or in the same arena, and then the second meeting between those 2 division opponents, they do a double header as well. But it's been interesting because it's hard to beat a team twice. And if you look at most of these games, it's not happening unless a team just truly is a bad matchup or there is some type of goalie issue. But it's been interesting to say the least.
All right, so here's what I'm going to do. I'm looking at that Houston Rockets first, and that's the game that John gave us. And
I just cut it back into 7.
Yeah, I could get it. Yeah. I could get it. Them to win the game by themselves, just outright. And I get 28 cents for every dollar that I bet. So there's a team, right, that you liked ahead of time, given 5 or 6, wasn't it?
Yeah, they were -5 at the time. And then in game they jumped to +5 when they were down about 14. Now they're only down by 7 within like 2 or 3 minutes. So from the time we jumped on until now, they already cut that. They already cut that
in half, right? Because they outscored them 8-0 in the second quarter. So that's what I did. I said, you know what? Why not? Now I just need them to win the game, and I get $1.28 for every dollar I bet. So that's pretty good there. I'll take that.
Nothing wrong with that ROI,
Now I'm going to go over to hockey. So I did look at college basketball, and I have some college basketball action, but I've been paying attention to college basketball, and I haven't had too many teams that I really have any confidence in. I'm watching them play a little bit at night, and I'm looking at some box scores. But I do have some games. They all start at 6, so that won't help us for live action. So I'm going to go over to the hockey now. And you had mentioned 2 games. You had mentioned the Florida-Columbus game, and you had mentioned the other game that was 2-0, right? It was Montreal-Calgary.
Montreal-Calgary.
Okay. So go back and explain to me the Florida game again, because I know Florida's been a lot of games have been going over for Florida.
Well, Florida until yesterday was coming off of a pretty good layover. I mean, that's a team that came out on fire, scoring goals left and right, and their goaltender's playing pretty well. It's a well-coached team, but CBJ, they give up the lead, and sometimes they give up the lead late. So I liked Florida outright going into the game, but now we're getting a discount on it. And if you take the money line, it was plus 225 when we talked about it a few minutes ago. Now it's, I believe, plus 200. I like them to win the second period, and plus 1.5 is probably the smartest for your full units.
All right, so Florida, you could get them in the second period with no draw, minus 128. And in the game, for them to win outright, it's plus 228 right now on my book. Huh.
Good value.
Yeah, no doubt about it. All right, so you know what? You've already got that the second quarter in, or second period, I mean?
I got second period, and I got the plus 1.5 for full units, and then a little lunch money on the money line.
Yeah, so what I'm doing is I'm just going to hop on the game. I'm not going to touch the second period because I don't want to have to think about it. But you'll keep us attuned there. So there was one basketball game that I had that was early, and that was Kansas. And I know Kansas is struggling, but they're playing a TCU team at home that I thought, this is a game that I'll be ready to play on some live action. Now, I'm looking at it, and they're actually down by 4. Kansas is down by 4. So I'm looking at what the odds are. And that's the beauty of some of these live plays. You have so many choices. I saw it with the Houston game for John's play. There was 5 or 6 lines. So this Kansas one's got 3, 6, 10 different bets you can make. You can go all the way up and say Kansas is going to win by 25.5. All the way down to Kansas is going to get 4.5. But where they're putting the money right now is at 10.5, 13.5, and I think the line to start was 14.5. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go down and I'm going to look at the first half. There's still a lot of time left. I can get Kansas in the first half minus 2.5. I think I'm giving 8 for the first half. So I can get them now minus 2.5 for 750 for minus 112 for minus 112. And so I have now basically taken my early action at minus 8 and zeroed out with a bet at minus 2.5. So if they win by 3, 4, 5, 6, or 7, I'm even. And if they win by 8, 9 or more, I win them both. So that's kind of what I'm going to do. So I've got now, what did I do? I did 3 plays, I think. Now we had more success when we found that one play and we hopped on it more than one time. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to continue to chat, and then I'm going to go back and I may make a couple more plays on those same games because I really hold on one second. I really like to win more bets with one play. You do the handicapping for one game, and maybe it'll be the Houston game if Portland gets back a little of that we gave away. Maybe it'll be that other hockey game. So you had 2 hockey games you gave us. We really only looked at one of them, and the second one was the Montreal-Calgary game. And tell me about the Montreal-Calgary game. You're saying that you're not surprised that it's 2-0, but it could get worse than 2-0 fairly quickly here.
I like the Canadians to build on that lead. It's a 2.5 right now. It might even have dropped to 2, but I've been watching this game, and I like the Canadians to build on that lead. Calgary doesn't have their feet tonight.
All right, so when I go to live action and I go to hockey, and I'm looking at hockey, all right, so we're going to have to go right there and hockey. And there's a lot of games on this board. Wow, there's a lot of hockey games. So we're saying, what we say is we think the Canadians are going to we're going to have them given some points here. You're saying, right? So we're doing the match, and I've got team totals. I got totals, and I got Montreal, but I don't have anything that allows me to say Montreal is going to win by more than one goal.
The total for the game, the spread is 2.5. I don't know if your app's showing it or not.
I'm not getting that yet, but as you know, you hang around, they change, they bounce around.
I mean, of course, it's a hockey game, so the initial game spread is always going to be 1.5, and
correct.
That's a total match. But
right. And so so for right now with that game, we're going to just sit tight, and we're going to get back to what we were talking about. All right, so we got our live action, and we're going to check back with it. And again, it was really cool last week because, we caught that where you get a goal. In hockey, you can do that. You can get those over 1.5 and get 2 goals back-to-back in 3 minutes. I got one of those earlier this week. It was literally, made the bet, got in the shower, came out, had already won. It was like, 9 minutes or something. It was just amazing. So, Houston's now up 16-7 in the second. That would have been a good second period bet. But we're all set there, so let's go back, and we're gonna talk real quick. We're going to talk to John first, because, John, you owe somebody a steak dinner.
Yeah, unfortunately I do. My brother-in-law, he's been hounding me all week about it, too. This was a classic case of kind of bet with your heart, so to speak, and just got disappointed in Buffalo, and I don't want to rant and rave about it, but I feel like their defense really kind of let me down. Just the way they schemed the whole defensive play, and that the whole too high safety and the whole schematic. It was terrible. Very disappointed, but nevertheless to say, I owe my brother-in-law a steak dinner. So congrats, you get dinner on me, Chris.
Well, here's how it works on my end. I had the under. Well, guess what? When teams fumble punts at the 2-yard line, that doesn't help under betting ever. But when they go up 9-0 and you hop on the other team, it worked out really well for me. So I ended up going into that game betting the under, and I came out of that game smelling like roses because I loaded up. I told Wes I loaded up on him in the first half and the game, and I could have gave a lot more points. I was taking him on the money line, and it was an easy. But Wes, we saw the video clip that we put out. You had a pretty good week.
Oh, it was a great week, and not just that, but you just mentioned that Buffalo went up by 9, and there's not a person that follows the Chiefs that even flinches at that. I think in the last 2 years they've gone down by more than a touchdown early in every one of their playoff games, except for one. But that just created another entry point, and I was really surprised that the sports book reacted as quickly as they did, because they've been very scared of the Chiefs all season long. And but they, for the first time this year, I watched the Chiefs play, and it looked like they were trying, and that's kind of a scary thing. And they covered. Yeah, no,
and again, they've been down. A couple of those playoff games in the previous years, they were down big and made incredible comebacks. Remember?
Yeah, and I think that's why this season they've been such heavy favorites most of the year. But they got a lot of new personnel on offense, and they made some changes. So I never understood why all of these large spreads with the Chiefs. But John has talked about it week in and every single week. Anything more than a touchdown, that's kind of find yourself another investment. So some of these Chiefs spreads, there's a better place to put the investment than laying 11 points on a Chiefs. But that one was great. I was a little bit surprised on the other side. I know I played Tampa, but I was surprised that they were able to beat Green Bay so easily. And I think it was more than just the bad coaching decision to go for the field goal. In fact, I don't fully disagree with that decision to put some points on the board, because then they're putting themselves in a position to actually win the game. But Green Bay just wasn't there. And I don't think Tampa is that good.
Well, no, it got interesting at the end. There's no doubt about it. It got interesting. But if you had 3.5 points, one of the things that we talk about in sports betting is the greatest number is 8.5. It's the greatest number in betting football. It's 8.5, and that's what you had. You had an 8.5-point lead, and you know what? Whatever. You could go to the store. You got an 8.5-point lead with a little time left. You're in pretty darn good shape. So anyway, all right. When we come back from break, we are going to talk to Ian from PropSwap. Now, you guys may not know this, but we've been dealing with PropSwap since we were on ESPN in 2015, and they have just grown. And as sports betting is legalized, they've grown with it, and pretty excited to talk to them. But I don't think a lot of people realize what great value PropSwap offers you, and it's a win-win-win situation because what they do is they allow you to sell out of a ticket that, and remember, Wes, when you were talking about cashing out on some of the websites that offer that, we had talked about PropSwap. They just do it for bigger tickets. And what we're going to do when we talk to Ian is we're going to get some stories about how they've grown. We're going to find out where they're going. And I got one really good question for him that I'm hoping that he can answer. When we get back, you're listening to Sports Betting Weekly on the Worldwide Sports Radio Network and Belly Up Sports Podcast Network.
It's the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.
Sports Betting Weekly.
You keep lying when you ought to be truthing. And you keep losing when you ought to not bet.
Sit back and enjoy the show.
Winner, winner, chicken dinner.
Welcome back to Sports Betting Weekly. I'm second half Chaz. We've got a few people on the show today. We've got, of course, John from GMF Sports Consultants. We've got Wes from 151 Sports Investing, and we have Ian from PropSwap. So, Ian, it's pretty exciting that you don't have to get up at 8 in the morning to talk to us this time, huh?
Yeah, that's right. That's right. This is a little more convenient.
No doubt about it. But we're so excited to see how you guys have grown, and it's really just pretty cool to see the tickets when you put them up there. And I've always said, if you've seen any of my social media posts, you really have created a win-win-win platform, which it doesn't usually work. Usually it's a win and a lose. Somebody wins and somebody loses, especially when it comes to sports betting. But in your niche, it isn't that way, because what you do is you help people get out of situations maybe they don't want to be in anymore, or help people get into situations that are better than they would have if they started. So tell us just how PropSwap works.
Sure. Yeah. So for those who are not familiar, PropSwap is the first and only secondary marketplace for sports bets. So if you place a bet at a casino, when we first spoke, Chaz, that was only in Las Vegas. Now, post 2018, there's legal sports betting in around 20 states now. So if you place a bet at a casino and then you want to get out of it, whether it's for a profit or for a loss, you can post it for sale on PropSwap at a price you determine. Obviously, we will give you a suggested price, what we think it's worth. But as the seller and the bet owner, you decide what you want to post it for. It goes up for sale on PropSwap. It costs you nothing to list it for sale. And then it goes out to our thousands of buyers across the country. And then if it sells, we charge a 10% commission to the seller. And then the buyer gets that ticket. And so essentially we are the eBay for sports bets.
I love that. So let me ask you a question. I sent over a list of questions that I was asking. One of the things I asked was, could you tell the story you told me of really the journey and how the tickets move and stuff?
The journey of how PropSwap started? Or
in terms of how you get a ticket to a place where it can be cashed.
Sure. So, like I said, so you can sell from anywhere as long as it was a bet made at a legal sports book. So, for example, if you live in California and you come to Vegas to make a bet, you go home with them, you can then post those tickets for sale. We always, if you're thinking about using PropSwap in the future, we have a slogan called "Go for Two." Meaning, if you like a team to, let's say, win the championship, let's say, you like the Bucks before the season and you were going to bet $100 on them, make two $50 tickets instead. So that way, I don't want to say we're like the stock market, but, in my opinion, by making multiple tickets, it's like buying shares of a team, right? So, whether it, let's say you want to make 4 $25 tickets, that's like buying 4 shares of a team. And so therefore, while the season's going on, you can decide to sell one and, or sell 2 and keep 2. It just gives you flexibility, right? And so, so that way you don't feel like you're having to make a choice of, do you sell or do you hold? It gives you flexibility of selling for a profit while also keeping some skin in the game in case it wins. So you can sell from anywhere. You post a ticket for sale, and then once we find you a buyer, the ticket comes to our office. If it's a Vegas ticket, it comes to Vegas. If it's a New Jersey ticket, it goes to our office in Jersey. We've got locations all across the country. Once we receive and verify the ticket, then you get paid as the seller. And then we hold on to the ticket so that if you buy it, you can resell it multiple times. So we've had some tickets that sell 5, 6, 7 times during the season because, like I said, it's like a stock. So team starts hot, goes up, it starts down, it goes down, and people will buy and sell the same ticket over and over again.
It totally makes sense. So what is the biggest ticket PropSwap has ever handled?
So we came close to breaking it last month, but officially the biggest sale we ever had was in 2019, about 2 days before the Saints-Rams NFC Championship game. We have a customer he's a professional sports bettor. He had wagered $8,000 on the Saints to win the Super Bowl before the season at 20-1 odds. And then he sold that ticket on PropSwap 2 days before the NFC Championship game for $57,500. And it was an interesting sale because the 2 people who bought the ticket, they went in together, was Cousin Sal and Clay Travis. They went in together. They bought the ticket for $57,000 total on the Saints. And then, of course, 2 days later, suffered one of the worst non-calls in sports history.
John, you and I saw that play together in Vegas, remember?
We did. I
was
remember
the no call on the pass interference.
That was a no. We were all sitting there like, what was going on? I was on the Saints too, so I fear with Cousin Sal on that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember. I had the under on that game, so it didn't matter to me.
Yeah.
It's one thing to make a bet and lose it, and you didn't have the right side, but it's a whole other thing when you make a bet and
they steal it. They steal it from you.
Yeah, and they steal it from you. So. But look, but to your point, Chaz, earlier about win-win, right? So yes, so obviously the seller won in that situation. He turned $8,000 into $57,000. I mean, and again, because this is a common pushback we hear is, just hedge your bet, right? So if you were to hedge that bet and not use PropSwap in that situation, you would have had to have wagered like $75,000 on the Rams money line in that situation, right? Which, guess what? Most people don't have that kind of money sitting around. So we hear the term hedge all the time instead of selling, but hedging requires money, and if you hedge once and the hedge bet loses, then you need even more money to hedge the second time, right? So selling requires no money, and you just put up for sale, and we'll find you the buyer. And in some cases, we will get you more money than you would if you hedged, because we can sell to guys like Cousin Sal and Clay Travis who have more money than they know what to do with, and they're sitting in California and they can't bet legally. So that was the largest bet that we sold. We came close to breaking that in December. We have another customer who he bet, and this is becoming more and more popular. I don't know if you guys are doing this too, but these future parlays where you're parlaying multiple teams to win the championship in different sports. They're becoming extremely popular, and so we have a customer who he parlayed the Lightning to win the Stanley Cup, the Seattle Storm to win the WNBA, the Dodgers to win the World Series, all tied with the Chiefs to win the Super Bowl. And he bet $400 for that on that ticket to pay a potential $171,000. So the first 3 hit, obviously, and then late in the season, he sold that ticket on PropSwap again for $57,000. So the seller turns $400 into $57,000, and the buyer is looking to turn $57,000 into $171,000, and he's now only 1 game away from doing that.
Well, and again, then that's the thing when I say win-win. not every one of those tickets is going to cash, but if you were going to make that bet anyway, but when you are a buyer on PropSwap, what you're saying is I'm getting better odds than the market. So
right,
I was going to make that bet. It doesn't mean I'm going to win that bet, but that's where it's a win situation.
Right, exactly, and that was the point I was going to bring up about the Saints ticket. Same thing happened there, right? So even though the result doesn't matter, right? As they would say, bet numbers, not teams, right? And so if you consistently get the best of the number, that will pay off for you in the long run, right? So yeah, so in this Chiefs example, right, the guy who spent $57,000, he got odds of 2 to 1. At that time, the Chiefs, only had one loss and they were rolling. They hadn't have all these close games. They were plus 175. Right, so in fact, if he wanted to make a bet at the sports book to collect the same amount of money, it would have cost him $10,000 more dollars. So even if this bet loses, he in theory is saving himself $10,000 by not having to go to the sports book. So yes, you're right, Chaz. It's not the result obviously matters to some degree, but getting the best of the number, that's what these guys do.
And they're good at it. Now, okay, 24, give or take, a couple dozen states have legalized it. Oh, by the way, California, hello, knock, 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 what are you doing? But anyway, how many 24 of those states do you guys have a rep in?
Pretty much all of them, or if not, in different regions. So there's pretty much every state that has legal sports betting, minus 1 or 2, we serve. So if you're out there, whether it's Iowa or Mississippi or Delaware, Rhode Island, New Mexico, Oregon, doesn't if you've got a legal betting ticket, we can help you. However, we do get asked daily about offshore tickets, and unfortunately, we never have, we never will, and it has to be a legal ticket. But fortunately, I know Californians are not too optimistic, but fortunately, legal sports betting is spreading throughout the country. So I feel pretty good that we'll be able to serve the entire country in short time.
Okay, so the question that I wanted to ask you was, you mentioned all this growth, and you mentioned offshore. You didn't mention mobile. If I place a big bet in my legal account online, and it's a future bet, can I go to that place and get a printout of that to send to you?
Unfortunately, no. I mean, you can get a printout of it, but it's not going to remove the bet from the app, right? So if it wins, the money's still going into your account, right? And there's no way for us to transfer the ownership from your betting account to someone else's betting account. I will say that is obviously in our roadmap. Never say never. I do think we will get to the point where whether it's you're transferring it yourself or it's automatically getting transferred, there will be a time where mobile bets are getting transferred. So to answer your question, how do we address mobile bets? We have a seller rating system, right? So I open this by saying like we're eBay, right? So on eBay, sellers have ratings, right? And you don't want to buy from a bad seller, you want to buy from a good seller, right? And so the way we work is the more sales you complete, the higher your rating. And so if you complete 10 sales, if you successfully list, sell, and deliver 10 paper tickets, we then unlock the ability to sell mobile tickets, right? And so that's a way of you kind of boosting your seller rating to say, hey, I'm a good seller, I'm reputable, I'm trustworthy, and then you can start selling your mobile tickets, and essentially it will allow, it gets you paid quickly, and if it wins, you pay us the collect amount, and we pay the buyer. And we've got a ton of these sellers who are making actually really good money. Like, it's not just like, I made one ticket, let me sell this. It's a legitimate side hustle. Some of these guys who they're price shopping, they're finding the best numbers, they're posting them for sale, and they're feeding the demand that we have here on PropSwap.
I remember my first ever garage sale. I didn't want to do it, but my wife and the neighbors got together having a garage sale. So I think it was supposed to start at 7 o'clock, and at 6 o'clock, those people were knocking on our door so they could buy it and take it to the swap meet and resell it. So yeah. I guess human beings are pretty consistent. It doesn't really matter what the subject.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, look, there's secondary marketplaces for cars, for houses, for shoes, and so we're just the secondary marketplace for sports bets.
All right, so before we let you go, what we want to do is get some inventory from you. You've got, going into the weekend, there were only 4 teams left. So there was a lot of tickets, I would imagine, that were going to be torn up. And do you guys tear them up? Do you send them back to the loser? How do you handle that?
Yeah, so if it's a ticket that's already sold and we have it and it loses, we tear it up. But, remember, you don't send the ticket in until it sells, right? So, we had plenty of people who, were trying to sell over the weekend. Sometimes, people, they want to sell too late, right? So, for example, they got a Bills ticket and they're uber confident about their Bills ticket until all of a sudden now they're down and Patrick Mahomes is running it down their throat. And now all of a sudden they want to sell, right? So, some people were smart and they cashed out early on their Bills tickets. Some people got greedy and they try to hold out. But the other cool thing is that people are buying and selling during the game too, right? And we are the only place in the world where people can buy and sell these futures mid-game. And when you get down to the playoffs, it's like it's this highly volatile, really fun marketplace of like, again, like you're selling a Super Bowl future during the AFC Championship game, and it's a really fun thing. And honestly, that's one of the most common things I hear from customers. It's not about the money or the value; it's fun. Like that
would be an adrenaline rush. There's no doubt about it, man. But you're talking to guys that we do live action on our show. So once we come back from our next break, what we'll do is we'll be checking our scores. So we understand the opportunities right here, right now, and for somebody who's had that ticket, and no matter what, say you spent $400, $500, $100, $20, whatever you spent, when that ticket value gets to the point where it's 40x or 30x, and you're saying, wow, you know what, for $20 now, I've got $600 I can get, even though it would pay $1,500. You can get that $600, and a guy comes in and he knows what he's doing. He's going to get 2 for 1 on his money almost. You don't get 2 for 1 on a straight bet very often.
Right. Exactly. These things have a way to pay out huge, but again, only one team's winning the championship, right? And so, so when you make these futures tickets, you got to say to yourself, the goal here is to make money, right? That's the name of the game, making money, right? It's not a lottery ticket. It's you got in it so that you could end up with more than you started with, right? And so that's what we kind of preach is that, don't get greedy, because, just don't look at that collect amount on the ticket and say, oh, this is what I want. Start to think, think about investing, right? ROI, right? If I can make a bet and then get out for 5 times more, that's a pretty good deal. When's the last time you hit a 5-to-1 shot, right? Not too frequently, but don't get caught up on the 25-to-1, 50-to-1. Just try and make your money and move on to the next one.
All right, so before we go, let's talk about it. Give us your top 2 or 3 for each team. And know what I would love to know, not only what it is, but when it was placed. I mean, because I have a lot more respect for somebody, like you heard the story about those buddies that made the play on Tampa Bay because he knew he was going to get traded, and they went all over town and put the bets in. Those are the cool stories. So a top 3 for each team, when they made the bet and what it's worth now.
Okay, you put me on the spot. So I do know, so we've got some really big Bucks tickets. I do know that. Obviously, the Chiefs started out as the favorite, and were the favorite all year. So you're going to see less of those like big tickets on the Chiefs than on the Buccaneers. I do know we have a ticket up for sale. Trying to find it, but the original bet was $200 at 50-to-1 odds on the Bucks. Right, so again, $200 at 50-to-1, and it's up for sale right now for $4,000.
Well, that's a bet that any guy that's watching this show that gets on a little heater at a crap table or doubles down a few times at blackjack. He's got a nice couple of Mai Tais in him. That's a bet that we make. That's not $8,000. I don't walk into a casino with $8,000 very often. You know what I mean?
Right. $200 is a very average bet. And if you look back at some of these recent, not champions, but teams that made it to the finals in really any sport, like you will consistently find teams that were 20-to-1 or greater that makes it to the finals. I mean, last year 49ers were like 40-to-1 before it. Panthers have been long shots. Eagles have been long shots. We're dealing with another long shot here with the Bucks. So keep your eyes peeled when you're looking at the futures. And like I said earlier, go for two, right? Make multiple tickets so that way you can be like, you know what, I'm going to sell this Bucks ticket and cash in there, but then I still got another ticket to ride out. But
it doesn't have to be all or nothing.
It doesn't have to be all or nothing.
Yep.
Exactly right.
Yeah. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to tell you, hey, don't be afraid to tag us in some of the pictures you put up over the next week with those tickets that are on PropSwap. And what we'll do is we're not looking for a piece of the action, but we'll share them with our folks, because I tell people, if you're going to make that bet anyway, you need to check PropSwap first.
That's right. That's right.
All right, buddy. Great catching up to you. We'll talk again soon.
All right. Thanks for having me on.
All right, when we get back from break, we got some live action. I know that we've got some updates on the hockey and the basketball. You're listening to Sports Betting Weekly on the Belly Up Podcast Network and the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.
It's the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.
Sports Betting Weekly.
Sit back and enjoy the show.
Welcome back to Sports Betting Weekly. I am second half Chaz. Now, we have got an update. We're going to have some updates here on our live action. Let's go out to Wes. Wes, talk about the game that we have. We had two games we were looking at for hockey.
Montreal's running with the game. I mean, they're running away with it. They're up 4-0 now. So the 2.5 that we talked about earlier is looking pretty good. And the second period in the Florida Panther CBJ game is close, and the Panthers won the second period.
So that's a winner. That was a winner. Now the 2.5, you got to wait the whole game to cash that ticket.
Two and a half. Yeah, 2.5. We got to wait a little bit. But with what looks like one winner, just needing to close out, and one winner in the books, and one to go, now might be the time to look for something else.
Yeah. Well, let's go over to basketball. Get an update on that NBA game.
Yeah, well, we took a great turn for Houston. They closed out that second quarter. If you guys were keeping tabs on it, they closed out a big second quarter. We just opened the third. Now Houston's up 8. So we went to a point where we were down 14. So now we're up 8. So if you jumped in,
15. They were down 15 after one.
Yeah. So if you jumped in, you not only did you get plus points and plus money. I was already on it. If you would have sprinkled a little bit on the money line back then. I mean, we obviously were looking pretty, but we all know NBA.
We didn't sprinkle. So we clicked. We clicked on that money line. So we got Florida on the money line. We got Houston on the money line. Wes is already cashed. So, yeah. So, again, it's not rocket science. You got to do the homework. You can't make the plays live action just willy-nilly. You got to do the homework. But if you know what you got with certain teams, whether it's teams that blow leads or teams that come back. A Kansas City Chiefs is a fine example. They traditionally have not ever worried. And Wes said no one was sweating when the Chiefs got down 9-0. First of all, if you want to beat the Chiefs, you got to make that 10. You got to make it 10-0. You don't make it 9-0. You can't help the Chiefs at all. And missing extra points is one way that helps the other team. So yeah, when we look at the live action again, before we go off the air, we got a shot of. Don't get me wrong. If a team is up 5-0 in a hockey game, given 2.5, I've seen enough hockey to know that teams just want the game to be over, or they'll start fighting, and all of a sudden they'll get behind even further. You saw that the other night. There was a team that scored 3 goals. They got up, I think, 5-1 or 5-2. And then there was some fights because the other team didn't like getting their butt handed to them, and so now it's 4-on-4, which, as you know,
the Vegas Knights came back from the Blues the other night.
Yeah, so when it's 4-on-4,
I think they were down. I don't know if they were down by. I know they were down by 2 goals. I don't know if they were down by 3, but I know they were down, and they wound up pushing that game into a shootout, which they lost.
Yeah,
but yeah, that was a great game to watch. Yeah.
Certain games, and because I've been watching hockey my whole life, certain games and certain players that get into the fight, it can change the entire momentum. If you're ever watching a Blackhawks game, and I'm Blackhawk West, so I'm just going to go there. But if you ever see Jonathan Taves pick a fight, bet the Blackhawks money line, no matter how much they're down. He only does it to change momentum and get his team fired up. And there's a lot of situations like that. You see the captain drop the gloves, or you see one of the goal scorers or somebody come off the bench and just start throwing weight around. That can change momentum pretty big, or at least close a 2.5 point spread for us.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. There's no doubt about it. So, all right, so let's do this. We talked a little about last week and how much fun it was. There's no football this week. So, John, what are you going to bet on?
I'm going to keep my eye on college basketball. Right now, obviously, we're getting into the NBA where I feel comfortable enough to start betting NBA. And then I'm getting, into NHL. I've been following it for probably about the past 2 years. So my NHL plays have been a little bit more, taking up towards the betting status. So, I'll probably dip into that. I haven't really looked too ahead, especially with NBA. It's so many guys are sitting, COVID, injuries. So I never really looked too far ahead into the lines or plays or anything like that. So I'll start studying a little bit, maybe looking into some prop bets for the Super Bowl,
Well, we talked about that because, we've been doing our show on Thursdays now for 3 years or so. And football is the main reason we only did football the first couple of years is because football you can do on Thursday. You really can't talk baseball on Thursday. You might not even know the pitchers for Saturday or Sunday. And on Thursday, the Mets are playing the Yankees, and on Friday, the Yankees are playing the Orioles for 3 games. So it's a little different when those other sports are on. Now, next week, of course, we're planning on having a Super Bowl show. The week after that, we'll start to kind of we'll still do this live action, but we'll start to look at the Saturday and Sunday cards. And remember, what I always talk about is when you walk in. So when I get to Vegas, I go usually on Friday nights. I'll get in. I'll usually call it a night. I don't, because by the time I leave, I work a full day. By the time I get there, check in and stuff, it's 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock at night. Now, if I was a kid, I'd go out drinking. But I'm not a kid, and I know I got an 18-hour college football day ahead of me. So what I do is I like to go in, and when you look up at that board, you just see so many things. There's just so many sports now you can bet on. So what we're going to do is we're going to find our niches, and we're going to find our nooks and our crannies, and we're going to make sure that what we do is end the week with more money than we started with. So let's talk to Wes. I know, Wes, you said you've been hesitant hopping on the hockey, but you're getting closer, it sounds like, to playing hockey. So what are you going to be looking at this weekend?
Well, I like the hockey lineup on Saturday. There's a couple nuances to this season that I'm still trying to figure out. There is a COVID impact in hockey right now where there wasn't when we were looking at that playoff bubble. And it has impacted some teams. And John, your Vegas was a postponed game tonight. I'm sure it was COVID related. I didn't read the details, but I'm really taking a close look on Saturday morning at the Buffalo and New Jersey game. And I'm planning on playing the ponies again. I'm looking forward to the Holy Bull Stakes, and then Sunday is probably not really going to be an investing day. We got a big wrestling event going on Sunday. It'll be just fun to watch and act like a kid.
Well, it's funny because I know that they said on the Pegasus race coverage that the Derby Trail starts up soon, and we will definitely be covering that. And that, though I can't, when I talk to you on Thursday for a race on Saturday, I can't give you my plays. I can talk about the race, though. But I can't give you my plays because I'm going to sit down and I'm going to read the racing form and I'm going to make my plays the morning of, because I'm looking at 2 things when it comes to horse racing, the morning of the races, the changes and the weather. And those are the real – and the changes are really important. You talked about it on the big race with the jockey change where you didn't like the jockey because of the jockey change. And it happens for whatever reasons. But now, as you mentioned, with COVID, more and more of these sports are being impacted with their schedules.
And it turned out to be the hottest jockey of the day.
Yeah, it was an upgrade. We didn't know it at the time.
No, I had no idea. It was probably the meat of his life.
And it cost me so much money because I laid into him at 10-1 on the morning line, and I had him in a super. So I ended up I missed the first race. I got a second, and then I hit a super in the next race, a try in the next race and the exacta in the last race and the pick 3. But what happened was, because he was 10-1 on the morning line, but he had just won, 3 or 4 races, they beat him down. I think he went off at 9-2 or 5-1, something like that, which is, not, don't get me wrong, I'll take the tickets, but when you got a 10-1 on top in a super, it's better than a 5-1. All day long. All right, so let's do this. We're going to get an update. We're going to look at the NHL. So both of the games that we're looking at are in the second. No, actually, Florida now has gone into the third with Columbus. They tied it up. You hit the second period there. That was a live action play. It was a winner. I've got them for the game. I got a plus money for the game. You got Montreal at 2.5. They were down. No, they were up 2-0 when you gave us that play, and so they were losing by a goal at that point, and they've scored twice. And exactly what you said. You said Calgary's going home and Montreal is going to keep scoring. And then the other aspect we've got is NBA. Now, the game is close now. The game is close again. Houston and Portland are close. And right now, rather than giving 4.5 points, I just need them to win the game outright. Doesn't mean a darn thing. It's kind of, like you said, John from GMF Sports mentioned to us, it's basketball. Check in the last 2 minutes. And I don't bet a lot of basketball because to this day, I don't remember my father talking to me about sex or drugs or rock and roll, but he did say don't bet basketball. So I always tell him to rest in peace, and I try to keep to it. But you know what? We're going to have a March Madness this year. We didn't have a March Madness last year. I had to spend, and thank God for Paolo. Paolo came in when all there was horse racing and soccer. We'll be having Paolo on the show as well. And he helped us get through when there was nothing but Bulgaria and there was a couple countries I had to look them up.
Costa Rica.
I didn't even know how to pronounce some of these countries or where they were.
Nicaragua.
We were betting the Faroe Islands. The Faroe Islands are like, you see that island in that commercial where the guy drives, he gets the bread, he gets the eggs. I don't even remember who the commercial was for. That's what the Faroe Islands are. They're some way off in Norway in the Arctic Circle. But yeah, so we are looking forward to March Madness. It's just, you feel bad for all those teams last year that had great teams, and they lost their chance to win a national championship, All right.
Yeah, March Madness is going to be a little bit different. Obviously, the whole scheduling, and some teams play less, some teams play more. You got Duke that's not the same. You got
it's kind of marquee
names that,
no doubt,
that are going to be, maybe they won't even make it. So, yeah. But shout out to Drake, college basketballs. And I'm not talking about the rapper either. If you don't know college basketball, look at Drake.
Well, there's a few of those teams that you're seeing in the top 25 that, you didn't even know where you'd be lying to us if you knew where they were located. Let's put it that way.
Oh, exactly. I have no idea where Drake is, and I don't care to know, but I know they cash a lot of tickets.
Yeah.
So.
All right, so before we let you go, John, let's talk about the GMF Sports Consultant, and we got a couple minutes. We're going to get through you and Wes in terms of what you're doing to help people win some money.
Well, exactly. Right now, the biggest thing I want to preach to people is be patient, bankroll management. And that's the two things that people lack coming into this industry. You're not going to be a millionaire overnight, regardless of what you see on Instagram or what do these guys want to tell you. You have to be patient and you have to be consistent with betting your bankroll. Set realistic goals. If you're a $50 to $100 bettor, you're not going to be a millionaire overnight. And just stick to small amount of games and be consistent. That's the number one thing I can say. And let's look forward to Super Bowl. Let's win some prop bets. Baseball's on the way.
There you go. 151 Sports Investing. Tell us more.
So I'm working on getting the webpage up and running, but there's going to be a series of training videos to talk about the bankroll management, the strategy, how to make your bets pay you. There's some sins that I'm throwing in there. And, for right now, I'm on Chicago Options Trader on a Discord page. You can get direct access to me. There's a good group of guys in there that are doing, stock market type stuff, but the sports bet page, I'm posting live plays in there constantly when I'm watching games, especially during football. So you get a direct line to me, and I'll help you get out of trouble if you find yourself into it. But if we talk enough time in advance, we probably get you a winning strategy.
Well, the one thing I want to say before I go is if you do get help with your plays, remember what you're doing. You're trading time for money. You're paying them money to let them put in the time for you. But you can't just, wash your hands and walk away. You got to pay attention. And tonight's a fine example. If GMF Sports Consultants gave you Houston today and they were down 32-17, most people are going to swear, never give them money again. Where someone who's smarter said, okay, opportunity. Like you said, you could get them in the first half. You could already have won more money than you bet on the game, and the game is just free to watch. And when you're watching a game that you've already cashed on, and Wes and I do it all the time, we hit the first quarter, we hit the first half, and everybody else is complaining about getting backdoored, and we were 2-1, and we go, and we always say the same thing. We say next, and that's what it becomes. I'm Second Half Chaz. You've been listening to Sports Betting Weekly. We're on the Belly Up Podcast Network and the Worldwide Sports Radio Network. Always be cashing.
Let's cash some tickets, guys. Thank you.
It's the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.